You know your marriage is over when your wife laughs about pleasing her boss for handbags, right after you pay the mortgage with money from your failing repair shop. I'm Dale Morrison, 43 years old, owner of Morrison's Home Repair on the wrong side of Millbrook, Massachusetts. My hands are permanently stained with motor oil and wood stain. My back aches from crawling under sinks, and apparently, my wife Jenna thinks I'm a complete joke. I found this out on a Tuesday night in October, coming home late from fixing Mrs. Patterson's ancient furnace. The house was dark except for the kitchen light, and I could hear Jenna on her phone laughing in that high-pitched way she reserves for her fancy friends from the tech startup where she works. "Oh my God, Mara, you should see the Prada bag Paul got me," she was saying. "Dale thinks we're exclusive, but honestly, I'm basically dating my boss for the perks. The poor guy still thinks he's enough for me." I stood in the doorway, still holding my toolbox, watching my wife of 18 years twirl around the kitchen like a teenager. She was wearing a silk blouse I'd never seen before, probably another gift from Paul. "The best part is, Dale paid the mortgage yesterday," she continued. "His little repair shop is barely breaking even, but he's so proud of himself. Meanwhile, Paul's taking me to that new French place downtown tomorrow. I told Dale I have a work dinner." My toolbox hit the floor with a crash. Jenna spun around, her face going white. "I have to go," she whispered into the phone, hanging up. We stared at each other across the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, our 17-year-old daughter Chloe was blasting music. "Dale, I can explain. Hope your boss covers dinner tomorrow," I said, walking past her toward the stairs, "because your credit card just got canceled." "You can't do that." I paused on the bottom step. "Watch me." 20 minutes later, while I was in the garage calling the credit card company, my phone started buzzing with hysterical texts from Jenna. Her card had been declined at the gas station. She was stranded. I turned off my phone and opened a beer. The next morning, I drove to my shop early before Jenna woke up. Morrison's Home Repair occupied a converted garage on Industrial Street, squeezed between a tire shop and a place that sold used appliances. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Stu Kowalski was waiting for me, leaning against his pickup truck with 2 cups of coffee. Stu owned the Backstop, a bar 3 blocks away, and we'd been friends since high school. He was built like the MMA fighter he used to be, thick shoulders, scarred knuckles, and a face that had been broken and reset more times than I could count. "Heard about last night," he said, handing me a coffee. "Word travels fast in this town." "Let me guess." Jenna called Mara, Mara called her husband, and now everyone at the country club knows my business. "Something like that." Stu followed me into the shop. "What are you going to do?" I fired up the coffee maker and looked around at my domain. Tool-covered workbenches, half-finished cabinet doors, a desk buried under invoices and receipts. This place represented 20 years of busted knuckles and 12-hour days. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. "I'm going to find out exactly how deep this goes," I said. That afternoon, I drove to Chloe's school for her parent-teacher conference. Jenna was already there, sitting in the hallway outside the classroom, wearing another outfit I'd never seen. When she saw me, her jaw tightened. "We need to talk," she said. "Nothing to talk about. You made your choice." "It's not what you think, Dale. Paul and I are screwing. I got that part." Mrs. Henderson, Chloe's English teacher, poked her head out of the classroom. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, we're ready for you." We sat through 20 minutes of discussion about Chloe's grades and college applications, pretending to be a functional family. Jenna asked intelligent questions about AP courses and recommendation letters. I nodded and tried not to think about her silk blouse. Walking to the parking lot afterward, Jenna grabbed my arm. "Dale, please. Can we just talk about this like adults?" Adults don't lie to their spouses for months. It wasn't supposed to happen. Paul and I worked closely together, and things just developed naturally. I pulled out my phone and showed her the credit card app. "Your Natural development cost me $3,000 last month. Hotel rooms, restaurants, shopping trips, all on my dime. Her face went red. You're tracking my spending. It's my credit card, Jenna. I pay the bills. This is exactly why She stopped herself. Why you what? Why you decided to trade up? She looked away. Paul understands my ambitions. He sees my potential. And I don't? You're a handyman, Dale. You fix toilets and patch drywall. Paul runs a company worth millions. There it was. The truth, finally. Hope he's worth it, I said, walking toward my truck. Where are you going? Home, to pack some things. You're leaving? I turned back to her. You left first, Jenna. I'm just making it official. That evening, I sat in my truck outside the Riverside Hotel downtown, watching the entrance. Jenna had texted me that she was working late. I wanted to see exactly what kind of work she was doing. At 7:30, a black BMW pulled up to the valet stand. Paul Hendricks stepped out, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. He was handsome in that polished corporate way that women seem to love. 5 minutes later, Jenna appeared in the lobby. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen, her hair styled in a way that made her look 10 years younger. When Paul kissed her cheek, she laughed and touched his arm. I watched them walk into the hotel restaurant together, acting like a couple, like she wasn't married to someone else. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Working dinner running late. Don't wait up. I drove to the backstop and ordered a whiskey. Rough day? Stu asked, polishing glasses behind the bar. Getting rougher. The bar was mostly empty, a few regulars watching baseball, a couple playing pool in the back. This was my world. Working-class people who paid their bills and kept their promises. It felt honest after watching Jenna perform her little charade at the hotel. You know what pisses me off most? I said after my second drink. It's not even the cheating. It's the lying. The way she looked me in the eye every morning and pretended everything was normal. Women like that, they get a taste of the good life and forget where they came from, Stu said. My ex-wife was the same way. Started hanging around with her boss's wife. Suddenly my construction business wasn't good enough anymore. What did you do? Let her go. Found out later the boss's wife was feeding her bullshit about how she deserved better. Some people just like stirring up trouble. I thought about Mara, Jenna's best friend. Mara had money. Her husband owned 3 car dealerships, and she'd always looked down on me. She was the one who'd gotten Jenna the job at the tech company in the first place. Speaking of stirring up trouble, I said, I think I need to have a conversation with someone. The next morning, I drove to Jenna's office building downtown. TechFlow Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower that screamed, new money. I'd been there once before, for a Christmas party where I'd felt like a caveman surrounded by people discussing stock options and venture capital. I took the elevator to the 15th floor and walked through the open concept workspace until I found Jenna's desk. She wasn't there, but her computer was unlocked. I had about 30 seconds before someone noticed me. I plugged in a USB drive and copied her email folders. It was something I'd learned from a client who suspected his business partner of embezzlement. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Can I help you? A young woman in designer glasses was staring at me. Just dropping something off for my wife, I said, pocketing the USB drive. Jenna Morrison. Oh, you're Jenna's husband. I'm Ashley, her assistant. She's in a meeting with Mr. Hendricks. No problem. I'll catch her later. Back in my truck, I called in sick to my only appointment that day and drove home. Chloe was at school, and Jenna wouldn't be back until evening. I had the house to myself. I set up my laptop in the kitchen and started going through Jenna's emails. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. The affair had been going on for 6 months, starting with flirty messages about work projects and escalating to explicit exchanges about hotel meetings. But the really damaging stuff was in her correspondence with Mara. Dale is so clueless, one email read. He actually thanked me for working so hard when I came home from the Marriott last week. I almost felt bad for him, almost. Mara's response, "Don't feel guilty. You deserve happiness, and Paul can give you the life Dale never could. Just be careful about the money trail." There were dozens of messages like this, with Mara encouraging every step of the affair. She'd even helped Jenna pick out lingerie for her hotel dates. But the worst message was from 3 weeks ago. "Mara, I think I'm ready to ask Dale for a divorce. Paul says he'll leave his wife once his kids graduate college. I just need to figure out how to keep the house and get enough alimony to maintain my lifestyle." Mara's reply, "Smart thinking. Document everything that makes Dale look like a bad provider. His drinking, the failing business, anything you can use. I know a great divorce lawyer." I stared at the screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated plan to destroy my life. My phone rang. It was Chloe. "Dad, can you pick me up from school? Mom was supposed to get me, but she's not answering her phone." "Sure, honey. Be there in 20 minutes. I found Chloe waiting by the flagpole, looking annoyed. She was 17, with Jenna's dark hair and my stubborn chin. Lately, she'd been distant, spending more time with her phone than with family. "Where's Mom?" she asked, getting into the truck. "Working." She's always working now. It's like she doesn't care about anything else. I glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, she missed my soccer game last week because of some dinner meeting, and she's been buying all these new clothes, acting weird, like she's trying to be someone else. Kids notice more than adults think they do. Chloe, if something was wrong between your mom and me, you'd tell me, right?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Are you guys getting divorced?" "I don't know, honey. Maybe. Is it because of Paul?" I nearly ran a red light. "What do you know about Paul?" "I'm not stupid, Dad. Mom talks to Aunt Mara all the time, and I hear things. Plus, she's been getting all these expensive gifts she says are from work bonuses, but her paychecks haven't changed." "How do you know about her paychecks?" "I needed money for the class trip, so I looked at the bank statements on her desk. The deposits are the same as always, but the spending is crazy. Hotels, restaurants, shopping. Either she's embezzling money or someone else is paying." My daughter was sharper than I'd given her credit for. "What do you think I should do?" I asked. "I think you should stop letting people walk all over you." That evening, I was in my garage workshop, sanding a cabinet door, when Jenna came home. I heard her car in the driveway, then her heels clicking across the kitchen floor above me. "Dale," she called, "we need to talk." I kept sanding. The rhythmic motion was calming, and I needed to stay calm for what was coming. She appeared at the top of the garage stairs, still wearing her work clothes. "Someone was in my office today. Ashley said you stopped by." "Just dropping something off." "What were you dropping off?" I set down the sandpaper and looked at her. "The truth, Jenna. I was dropping off the truth." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I read your emails. All of them." She gripped the stair railing. "You had no right. I had every right. You're my wife, using my credit card to finance your affair. That gives me plenty of rights." "Dale, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you and Mara have been planning to divorce me for months? How you've been documenting my failures to use against me in court? How your boyfriend promised to leave his wife once his kids graduate?" She started crying, but they were angry tears, not remorseful ones. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under at work. Paul and I, we connect on a professional level. You connect on a horizontal level, in hotel rooms I paid for. This is exactly why I can't talk to you. You reduce everything to crude jokes. And you reduce our marriage to a financial transaction. At least my jokes are honest." She wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup. "I want a divorce, Dale. This isn't working anymore. Because I'm not rich enough? Because we want different things. I want a future, and you want to stay stuck in this town forever, fixing other people's problems. I want to stay stuck with my family. There's a difference. Chloe will understand. She's smart enough to see that this is better for everyone. Actually, she already knows about Paul. She figured it out on her own. Jenna's face crumpled. What did you tell her? I didn't tell her anything. She told me. Turns out teenagers aren't as stupid as cheating adults think they are. I walked past her toward the stairs. Where are you going? To have a beer and think about what I'm going to do to you. Is that a threat? I paused at the bottom of the stairs. It's a promise. You want to play games, Jenna? Let's play games. The first shot I fired was simple. I canceled our joint credit cards and moved half our savings into a separate account. By Thursday morning, Jenna was calling me every hour. You can't do this, she said when I finally answered. I have expenses. So do I. Like a lawyer. Dale, be reasonable. We can work this out without getting lawyers involved. We could have worked it out without getting Paul involved, too. But here we are. I hung up and went back to work. I had 3 jobs that day, replacing a water heater, fixing a broken deck railing, and installing new kitchen cabinets. Honest work that kept my hands busy and my mind focused. Around lunchtime, Stu showed up with sandwiches from the deli. Heard through the grapevine that you're making waves, he said, just evening the playing field. Jenna's been calling around town, trying to drum up sympathy. Says you're being vindictive. I laughed bitterly. Vindictive would be posting those hotel receipts on Facebook. I'm being practical. What's your next move? I'm going to have a conversation with Paul's wife. Stu raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? She deserves to know what her husband's been up to, and what he promised my wife. That evening, I drove to the Hendricks house in Millbrook's most expensive neighborhood. It was a colonial mansion with perfect landscaping and a circular driveway. Paul's BMW was parked next to a white Mercedes SUV. I rang the doorbell, and a woman in her 40s answered. She was blonde, well-dressed, with the kind of understated elegance that comes from old money. Mrs. Hendricks? I'm Dale Morrison. I think we need to talk about our spouses. Her face didn't change, but I saw recognition in her eyes. Come in. She led me to a living room that looked like something from a magazine. We sat across from each other on matching leather chairs. How long have you known? I asked. About 6 months. Paul's not as clever as he thinks he is. She spoke with the calm precision of someone who'd been expecting this conversation. How long have you known? 3 days. And you came here to what? Compare notes? I came here because my wife thinks Paul's going to leave you after your kids graduate college. I thought you should know about that part. For the first time, her composure cracked slightly. He told her that? According to their emails, yes. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. My children are 16 and 14. College graduation is 6 years away. Assuming he was telling the truth, which he wasn't. She looked up at me. Paul has no intention of leaving me, Mr. Morrison. I have too much money, and he has too much to lose in a divorce. Then what's his plan? To keep your wife as a mistress until he gets bored. Then he'll find someone new. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with protecting my children and my assets. What Paul does with his free time is his business, as long as he's discreet. Well, he's not being discreet anymore. She smiled coldly. No, he's not. Which means this situation needs to be resolved. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that your wife is a liability to my family's reputation, and liabilities need to be eliminated. I left the Hendricks house with a new understanding of how the wealthy played the game. It wasn't about love or marriage or family. It was about power and money and maintaining appearances. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenna. We need to talk. Meet me at the backstop at 8. I texted back, see you there. The backstop was busy for a Thursday night. I found Jenna at a corner table, nursing a glass of wine. She looked tired, older somehow, as if the stress of the last few days had aged her. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. What do you want, Jenna? I want to end this before it gets ugly. We can have a civilized divorce, split everything fairly, and move on with our lives. Define fairly. I keep the house, you keep the business. We split the savings and retirement accounts. I get alimony for 5 years to help me transition. I signaled Stu for a beer. And what do I get? You get your freedom. And you get to avoid a messy court battle where all your drinking and business problems become public record. My drinking problems? Dale, you have a beer with lunch every day. You spend 3 nights a week at this bar. That's going to look bad to a judge. And your affair with your boss is going to look good? Paul and I didn't start our relationship until after our marriage was already over emotionally. I can prove that you've been neglecting me for years. I stared at her across the table. This was the woman I'd married 18 years ago, the woman who'd cried when I proposed, who'd held my hand during her father's funeral, who'd stayed up all night with me when Chloe had pneumonia as a toddler. You really think you can rewrite history, don't know you? I think I can tell my truth. Your truth is that you're a cheating liar who's been planning to destroy me for months. My truth is that I'm a woman who outgrew her marriage and found someone who appreciates her, someone who's never going to leave his wife. Her confidence flickered. What do you mean? I mean, I had a nice chat with Mrs. Hendricks tonight. Turns out she knows all about you and Paul. She's been tolerating it because she thought it was temporary. You talked to Linda? How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Seems like someone should. Jenna's face was flushed with anger. What did she say? She said Paul has no intention of leaving her. Ever. You're just his midlife crisis, Jenna. His toy. That's not true. Paul loves me. Paul loves your desperation. It makes you easy to control. She stood up abruptly, knocking over her wine glass. You're a bastard, Dale Morrison. A bitter, small-minded bastard who can't stand to see me happy. I can't stand to see you stupid. There's a difference. She stormed out of the bar, leaving me with a table full of spilled wine and the stares of other customers. Stu came over with a towel. That went well, he said, mopping up the mess. It went exactly like I expected. What's your next move? I finished my beer and stood up. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. Friday morning, I called my lawyer, Jim Bradley, and scheduled an appointment for the following week. Then I drove to TechFlow Solutions with a manila envelope full of printed emails. The receptionist called upstairs, and 5 minutes later, Paul Hendricks appeared in the lobby. He was shorter than I'd expected, maybe 5'8", with the soft build of someone who worked out with a personal trainer but had never done real physical labor. Mr. Morrison, he said, extending his hand. I think we should talk. I think so too. He led me to his office on the 16th floor, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that probably cost more than my truck. He closed the door and gestured to a chair across from his desk. I want you to know that I have tremendous respect for you, he began, and I never intended for this situation to develop the way it has. Which situation? The affair or the plan to divorce me? His composure slipped slightly. Jenna and I have a connection that goes beyond the physical. We understand each other professionally and personally. You understand that she's married? I understand that she's unhappy. Has been for years. And you understand that she thinks you're going to leave your wife for her? Relationships are complicated, Mr. Morrison. I'm not going to discuss my marriage with you. I opened the manila envelope and spread the printed emails across his desk. Then let's discuss these. He glanced at the papers, and his face went white. Where did you get these? From my wife's computer. Interesting reading. especially the part where you promised to marry her after your kids graduate college. Those emails were private. Nothing's private when you're screwing someone else's wife on their dime. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. What do you want, Mr. Morrison? I want you to fire my wife. I can't do that. She's a valuable employee. She's a liability. Your wife knows about the affair. How long before your board of directors finds out you're sleeping with subordinates? He turned around, and I saw real fear in his eyes. Linda knows? She's known for months. She's been waiting for you to get bored and move on, like you always do. What did she tell you? She told me you're not the first affair she's overlooked, but you are the sloppiest. Paul sat back down heavily. This is a disaster. It's about to get worse. Unless we can work out an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? You fire Jenna. Give her a good severance package and a reference letter. Then you end all contact with her. And in return? In return, these emails stay between us. He stared at the papers on his desk. She'll know you showed them to me. She'll suspect. But she won't know for sure. What if she fights the termination? That's your problem. You're the one who decided to screw an employee. He was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. How do I know you won't use these against me later? Because I don't care about you, Paul. I care about my wife learning that her boyfriend is a coward who throws her away the minute things get complicated. You want her to be hurt. I want her to understand consequences. 20 minutes later, I was back in my truck, driving to the shop. My phone rang as I pulled into the parking lot. Dale, it's Mara. We need to talk. Mara Castellano was Jenna's best friend and worst influence. She was 50, blonde, and had the kind of aggressive confidence that came from never being told no. What do you want, Mara? I want you to stop this vindictive campaign against Jenna. She's my friend, and I won't stand by and watch you destroy her life. Funny. I felt the same way when you were encouraging her to destroy mine. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about 6 months of emails where you helped plan my wife's affair. I'm talking about you coaching her on how to document my failures for divorce court. Silence. I have copies of everything, Mara. Every message where you told her she deserved better. Every suggestion about hiding money. Every lie you helped her practice. Those emails were private. So was my marriage. Didn't stop you from interfering. Jenna was unhappy. Jenna was bored. There's a difference. You never appreciated her, Dale. You treated her like a housewife instead of recognizing her potential. I treated her like my wife. I supported her when she wanted to go back to work, celebrated her promotion, and paid for her new wardrobe. What I didn't do was encourage her to cheat. She needed someone who understood her ambitions. She needed a friend who told her the truth instead of feeding her fantasies. The truth? You want to talk about truth? The truth is that you're a small-town nobody who was holding her back. Paul saw her potential and Paul saw an easy target, and so did you. I hung up and turned off my phone. I had work to do. That evening, I was installing a ceiling fan in Mrs. Patterson's dining room when Chloe called. Dad, Mom's crying in her room and won't come out. She got fired today. I'll be home in an hour. What's going on? She won't tell me anything. Your mom made some bad choices, honey. Now she's dealing with the consequences. I found Jenna in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with a box of tissues. She looked up when I walked in, her eyes red and swollen. You bastard, she whispered. You went to Paul. I went to several people. He fired me, said it was a restructuring, but I know you threatened him. I gave him a choice. He made it. I loved him, Dale. I really loved him. No, you loved what you thought he could give you. Money, status, a different life. You never loved him. And I never loved you either, right? That's what you want to hear? I sat down in the chair across from her. I want to hear the truth, Jenna. just once. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. I did love you, she finally said. In the beginning. But somewhere along the way, I started feeling like I was disappearing. Like I was just Dale Morrison's wife, nothing more. So you decided to become Paul Hendrix's mistress instead? I decided to become someone who mattered. You mattered to me. You mattered to Chloe. I mattered as a wife and mother, not as a person. What's the difference? She looked at me with something like pity. The difference is that wives and mothers are replaceable. People aren't. Is that what Mara told you? Mara helped me see that I had options. Mara helped you blow up our family because she was bored with her own life. That's exactly what happened. She's been divorced twice, Jenna. Her kids don't talk to her. She's miserable, and she wanted company. Jenna stood up and walked to the window. It doesn't matter now. Paul won't return my calls, I lost my job, and you hate me. I don't hate you. I hate what you did. What happens now? Now you figure out what you want your life to look like. Without Paul, without Mara's advice, without my money. Are you divorcing me? I'm thinking about it. She turned around. What would it take for you not to? I don't know if there is anything. Dale, please, I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, start over. You didn't make mistakes, Jenna. You made choices. For months. Every hotel room, every lie, every email to Mara, those were all choices. I know, but... And the choice to plan a divorce strategy while pretending to work on our marriage? That was calculated. She started crying again. I was scared. I thought you'd leave me if you found out, so I wanted to be prepared. Instead, you made sure I'd have to leave you. I stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? To sleep in the guest room. We'll figure out the rest later. The next few weeks passed in a strange, tense routine. Jenna stayed home, applying for jobs and avoiding eye contact. Chloe split her time between school, friends, and pretending our family wasn't falling apart. I worked longer hours, partly to avoid the house and partly because I needed the money. Word had gotten around town about our situation. Millbrook was small enough that everyone knew everyone's business, and the story of Jenna's affair had become the latest gossip. Some people were sympathetic to me. Others seemed to think I'd driven her away with my lack of ambition. The divide became clear at Chloe's soccer game on a Saturday afternoon in November. I was sitting in the bleachers when Tom and Susan Bradley sat down next to me. Tom was my lawyer's brother, an insurance salesman who'd always been friendly. "Hey, Dale," Tom said. "How are you holding up?" "Taking it one day at a time." "That's all you can do," Susan added. "We're pulling for you." Behind us, I heard Mara's voice. The whole thing is so sad. Dale never appreciated what he had. I turned around. Mara was sitting with two other women from the country club, all of them dressed in expensive casual wear. "Some men just can't handle successful women," one of them said. "They feel threatened." "Exactly," Mara replied. "Jenna outgrew him, and instead of being happy for her, he sabotaged her career." I stood up and walked over to them. "Excuse me, ladies." I couldn't help but overhear. Mara's face went red. "Dale, this is a private conversation. In public bleachers. At my daughter's soccer game." I looked at the other two women. "I'm Dale Morrison, by the way. The husband who apparently sabotaged his wife's career by paying for it." "We weren't," one of them started. "You were discussing how I couldn't handle my wife's success. Which is interesting, since her success included sleeping with her boss and planning to divorce me for money." "That's not what happened," Mara said. "Really? Because I have emails that say otherwise. Months of emails where you encouraged her affair and helped her plan a divorce strategy." The other women looked uncomfortable. One of them stood up. "We should go." "Good idea," I said. "But Mara, you should stay." We're not done talking. After the others left, Mara and I faced each other across the bleacher row. "You had no right to embarrass me like that," she said. "You had no right to destroy my marriage." "I didn't destroy anything. I supported a friend who was unhappy." "You manipulated a friend who was vulnerable." There's a difference. Jenna made her own choices. Based on your advice. Advice that was designed to blow up her life. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've been divorced twice, Mara. Your kids live with their fathers. You're alone, and you wanted Jenna to be alone too. You don't know what you're talking about. I know that you told her to document my drinking problem and business failures for court. I know you helped her hide money and plan her exit strategy. I know you introduced her to Paul in the first place. Mara's composure finally cracked. She deserved better than you. She deserved a friend who told her the truth. Instead, she got someone who fed her fantasies until they destroyed her life. Her life isn't destroyed. She lost her job, her marriage, and her boyfriend in the same week. How is that not destroyed? She'll find something better. She'll find out that the world doesn't owe her anything. And when she does, you won't be there to help her pick up the pieces. I walked back to my seat, leaving Mara alone on the bleachers. Tom and Susan were staring at me. "Feel better?" Tom asked. "Not really." But it needed to be said. That evening, I was in my workshop when Chloe came down to the garage. "Dad, can we talk?" "Sure, honey. What's on your mind?" She sat on my workbench, swinging her legs like she used to do when she was little. "I heard what happened at the game today. Mom's upstairs crying again. I'm sorry you had to see that." "Are you sorry you said it?" I thought about it. "No. I'm tired of people acting like I'm the villain in this story." "You're not the villain." "But you're not exactly the hero either." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've been angry for weeks and it's starting to scare me." I put down my sandpaper and looked at her. "I'm not angry at you, Chloe." "I know. But you're angry all the time now. And when you're not angry, you're planning something. I can see it in your eyes." "What do you think I'm planning?" "I think you're planning to hurt Mom the way she hurt you." "Would that be wrong?" "It would be stupid. Because when you're done hurting her, you'll still be angry, and she'll still be gone, and I'll still have parents who hate each other." I sat down next to her on the workbench. "I don't hate your mother, Chloe. You don't love her either. I don't know what I feel anymore. Then maybe you should figure that out before you do something you can't take back." The next morning, I woke up with Chloe's words echoing in my head. She was right. I was planning something. I'd been planning it for weeks, ever since I'd realized the full scope of Jenna and Mara's betrayal. The plan was simple. I was going to give them exactly what they'd given me: public humiliation, financial ruin, and the loss of everything they thought they could count on. But sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise, I realized that revenge wouldn't fix anything. It would just make me into the kind of person I'd never wanted to be. My phone rang. It was Jim Bradley, my lawyer. "Dale, I've got the divorce papers ready. When do you want to file?" "Can I ask you something first?" "Sure." "In your experience, do people ever really change? Or do they just get better at hiding who they are?" Jim was quiet for a moment. "That's a hell of a question for 8 in the morning. It's been a hell of a month." "I think people can change, Dale, but only if they want to badly enough, and only if they're willing to do the work. What if they're not? Then you protect yourself and move on." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for another hour, thinking about 18 years of marriage. The good times, the bad times, and all the ordinary moments in between. I thought about the woman I'd married and the woman she'd become. I thought about the man I used to be and the man I was turning into. Finally, I made my decision. I called Jim back and told him to file the papers. The divorce papers were served on a Tuesday morning in December. I wasn't there when it happened. I was at work, installing new cabinets in a kitchen across town, But Chloe called me afterward. "Mom's freaking out," she said. "She's calling everyone, crying, saying you blindsided her." "Did I?" "Dad, you've been sleeping in the guest room for 6 weeks and haven't spoken to her except about bills." She had to know this was coming. That evening, I came home to find Jenna waiting for me in the kitchen. She'd been crying, but she was angry too. 50-50 split of assets, no alimony, and I have to be out of the house in 60 days, she said, waving the papers. "This is vindictive, Dale. This is fair. Fair would be recognizing that I gave up my career to raise our daughter. You gave up your career for 2 years. Then I supported you going back to school, getting certified, and finding a job. A job you lost because you couldn't keep your pants on. That's cruel. It's accurate." She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "What happened to us, Dale? We used to be happy. We used to be a lot of things. Then you decided you wanted something else. I wanted to feel alive again. So you killed our marriage. I made mistakes. You made choices. Every day for 6 months, you chose Paul over me. You chose Mara's advice over our family. You chose to lie, cheat, and plan my destruction. I never wanted to hurt you. You just wanted everything I had, plus everything he could give you. The fact that it would destroy me was irrelevant." She was crying again, but I felt nothing. Whatever love I'd had for her had died in those hotel receipts and email exchanges. "So this is it?" she asked. 18 years and you're just done? 18 years and you threw it away for a man who won't return your phone calls. Paul will find someone new, probably already has. The next few weeks passed quickly. Jenna found a job at a smaller company, making half what she'd made at TechFlow. She also found an apartment across town, a 1-bedroom place that was nothing like the house she was leaving. Mara tried to help with the moving arrangements, but I made it clear she wasn't welcome on my property. The last thing I said to her was, "You got what you wanted." I hope it was worth it. Chloe decided to stay with me during the week and visit her mother on weekends. She was handling the divorce better than I'd expected, but I knew it was hard on her. "Are you okay?" I asked her one evening as we ate dinner in our suddenly quiet house. "I'm sad," she said, "but I'm not surprised. You and Mom haven't been happy for a long time." "Since when?" "Since I was about 14. You stopped talking to each other except about schedules and bills. You stopped laughing together. You became like roommates instead of married people. Why didn't you say anything?" What was I supposed to say? Fix your marriage? I was a kid. It wasn't my job. She was right. It hadn't been her job, and I was grateful she understood that. The divorce was finalized on a cold day in February. Jenna signed the papers without argument, took her half of our savings, and moved into her apartment. I kept the house, the business, and most of the debt. That evening, I was at the backstop having a quiet beer when Stu sat down next to me. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Empty, relieved, angry, take your pick." "Any regrets?" "About the divorce?" "Number. About how I handled it? Maybe. You could have been nastier. I could have been smarter. I spent so much energy being angry that I forgot to figure out what I actually wanted." "What do you want now?" I thought about it. I want to be the kind of man my daughter can respect. I want to build something instead of tearing things down. I want to stop caring what other people think about my choices. That's a good start. 6 months later, I ran into Paul Hendricks at the hardware store. He looked older, grayer, and he avoided eye contact when he saw me. "Dale," he said, nodding. "Paul." We stood there for an awkward moment, two men who'd shared the same woman and had nothing else in common. "How's business?" he asked finally. "Good." "Steady. How's yours?" "Fine." "Busy." Another pause. "I heard Jenna's doing well at her new job," he said. "She is. Found her footing again. That's good. She's a talented woman. She's my daughter's mother. That's all that matters to me now." He nodded and walked away. I never saw him again. As for Jenna, we developed a civil relationship focused on Chloe. We attended her graduation together, sitting on opposite sides of the auditorium, but both cheering when her name was called. We split the cost of her college tuition and managed to coordinate schedules without major drama. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I'd handled things differently. If I'd tried counseling or forgiveness, or any of the things that marriage experts recommend. But I knew the truth. By the time I found those emails, our marriage was already over. Jenna had killed it months earlier. I just made it official. The last time I saw Mara was at Chloe's college graduation. She was there with her ex-husband. They'd apparently reconciled after their youngest son had been arrested for drug possession. She looked older, sadder, and when our eyes met across the crowd, she looked away quickly. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no curiosity about her life. She was just another person I used to know, from a time when I was someone else. These days, my life is quieter but fuller. The business is thriving. Word gets around when you do good work and treat people fairly. I've been dating a woman named Carol, a teacher at Chloe's old high school. She's kind, honest, and has no interest in changing me into someone else. Chloe comes home for holidays and summer breaks, full of stories about college and plans for the future. She's studying business, with the goal of expanding Morrison's home repair into a full construction company. The idea terrifies and excites me in equal measure. "You know what the best part of your divorce was?" she said last Christmas, as we worked together in the garage. "What?" "You became yourself again. You stopped trying to be whoever Mom wanted you to be. I didn't realize I'd been doing that." "You had. For years. You got smaller and smaller trying to fit into her idea of a good husband. And now? Now you're just Dad. And that's enough. Last week I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Jenna was marrying a man named Robert, an accountant she'd met at her new job. The invitation was simple, elegant, and included a handwritten note. "I hope you can be happy for me. IRSVP Ed, that I couldn't attend, but wish them well." And I meant it. That evening, I was closing up the shop when my phone rang. It was Jenna. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For the RSVP, for not being bitter about the wedding, for letting me have a fresh start. Everyone deserves a fresh start. Even me? Especially you." We talked for a few more minutes about Chloe, about the business, about nothing important. When we hung up, I realized it was the first normal conversation we'd had in 3 years. I locked up the shop and drove home through the quiet streets of Millbrook. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like mine. I thought about the man I'd been when this all started, angry, betrayed, focused on revenge. I thought about the man I'd become, calmer, clearer about what mattered, more interested in building than destroying. The truth is, Jenna did me a favor. She forced me to examine my life, my choices, and my priorities. She made me realize that I'd been sleepwalking through my own existence, accepting whatever scraps of attention and affection she was willing to give me. I'm not that man anymore. I'm Dale Morrison. I fix things for a living. I raised a daughter I'm proud of, and I survived the worst thing that ever happened to me. I don't need anyone else's approval or validation. And that, more than any revenge I could have planned, is the last laugh.